Hello, and welcome to the NTLC Evergreen 3.0 series of tutorials. My name is Jeff Sams, and today we will be going over a variety of changes to the cataloging interfaces in the web client. This video is not meant to be a replacement for proper training in cataloging procedure for your library or the consortium in general. It is simply meant to highlight the various changes between the old staff client and the new web client for those that are familiar with the old staff client. With that said, my hope is that those fresh to Evergreen will also be able to get something from this video as well. So let's get started. After logging into the new staff client, you will be greeted with this home screen. You will notice that a great deal of this is very similar to the old staff client. I'll be touching on other changes in different videos, but this video we will simply be focusing on the cataloging menu here. First, we will look over the search functionality and layout. As you can see, the setup is similar to the old catalog, with the advanced search displayed below a bar that holds general information. The difference here is that the bar above is now a series of tabs instead of the static information about a given record with a menu for actions and other screens. First, let's search for a record so we can take a closer look at the new stuff. I'm doing a search for Harry Potter here. Luckily, there are records on the demo server that allow for this to work for us. I'm going to click on the first regular book link here, and as you can see, the familiar summary information bar popped into existence. All the same information that was previously shown is there. These tabs can be used to move from the opaque view to the mark edit view, just plain mark view, view holds, parts maintenance, holdings maintenance, and conjoined items. This was normally hidden under an action menu in the old staff client, but is easily accessible here. For the sake of this video, we will be focusing on the two screens that have taken the greatest overhaul overall. That would be Mark Edit and Holdings View. Under Mark Edit, you can see the layout is very similar to that of the old staff client. We have our checkboxes for flat text editor, stack subfields. This add item one is what used to be fast item add, which will pop up a call number and barcode field for you to type in. We have the familiar buttons off to the side here with save, delete, help, and validate. The help button in particular I feel is one of the best changes to this particular screen, as instead of creating a pop-up dialog with the help information, it actually tosses it in line down here, and it stays here for as long as you'd like. Clicking on the help menu again removes it. But it's nice that they've made it so that it's persistent and you can always reference it if you need to. For those that are not used to the interface, it makes it a very nice resource. Up here we have our fixed fields. Many of the context menus that were already here are still here. Simply right click within the field and those context menus will pop up. This also holds true for most of the things down here. If you want to add a new field, simply right click and you'll get a context menu with all of the different mark tags that you would possibly want to add in. If we add in a 007 field, just for the sake of things, in the old client, if you right-clicked here, you would get the option to open up the physical characteristics wizard. That is no longer the case here. Instead, there is a small link button here off to the side that once you click on, it will actually bring up a pop-up dialog with the physical characteristics wizard. This functions exactly the same as that physical characteristics wizard. It's just a new interface. Nothing crazy to worry about here. You should be able to pick this up with very little issue. So I'm going to move on from here, and I will probably cover this in more depth in a later video. That pretty much covers the bulk of the changes to the Mark Edit screen. Everything you see here functions exactly the same otherwise, and we can make a separate video that covers more of this in depth as a better primer for cataloging procedure in general. For the time being, however, we're going to go ahead and move on to holdings maintenance, or holdings view, as the new web client calls it. Here, you can see a screen that might feel a little bit different than what you're used to. In the old setup, it kind of broke out the information a little bit more than it does here, but with that said, it's still a fairly simple and straightforward screen. This is where you would normally go to add volumes and items to a record. And so what we're going to do is walk through the process of adding a volume and item to our setup here. So first things first, we're going to click on Add Volumes up here at the top. This is what you would do under normal circumstances for your library if you're just adding an item for the first time. Clicking on this button will bring up a new tab that has a new interface based off of a feature we never actually set up at our consortium previously, which combines both the volume add and the item attributes editor into a single screen. I find that this workflow is much more streamlined and very easy to work with, and so what we're going to do is just slowly walk through the process here. As it stands, the only information that I actually need to add here is a simple barcode. I don't need a copy number or any of these other blank fields at this time. You may find in the future that you need one or more of these fields, and at that time you are more than welcome to start tweaking those things. But for this video, we're just going to get through the bare minimum. At this time, there is something that I would like to point out. There are two buttons up here near the top: Hide Volume Copy Details and Hide Copy Attributes. In this case, if we click on Hide Volume Copy Details, it will hide the fields that we just filled out. So I'm going to show those again. And then I'm going to show you a second setup here. There is a little drop-down menu with different organizational units that we can select. And if we click Add Volume, it would actually add a second setup down here that we would then have to fill out as well. But we're not going to need to do that today. We've already filled in our first item. We don't need a second one. So we're going to move on to the Copy Attributes editor. Down here, we have a two-tab setup: Working Copies, Completed Copies. As you can see, there are no completed copies at this time because we're still currently working on the only copy that we have at the moment. So here we have the Item Attributes editor, or as they're referring to it here, the Copy Attributes editor. In this particular case, it has all of the same features that you would expect in this particular setup. Over here to the left-hand side, it shows us what copies we're currently working on. It gives us the option to store the selected information to the items that we're currently working on, or simply save and exit. We'll go over Store Selected here very shortly. First, we're going to fill in some basic information that will hopefully get the item up and ready to go. So we're going to make the item available. We're going to call it a reference piece of material. We're going to give it a $15 price. We're going to make it a normal loan duration, circulating it as a language material. No deposit necessary. It's holdable, but we want to keep it in our library for at least 3 months. The fine level is going to be normal, and we're not going to set floating or anything else for that matter. Once we've got all of this information, what we can do is actually click Store Selected, and it will remove the item from this menu. If we click on Completed Copies, we will see that the item we were just working on shows up here. And we have the option to edit the selected, or we can simply save the completed items or save and exit. In this case, we're going to just click Save and Exit. This was simply to illustrate that this is an option. If you're working on multiple different items in various different places, this is a good way to make all of that work for you. So we're going to click on Save and Exit, and you're going to notice that it closes the tab and brings you back to the holdings view. Now from here, I'm going to simply change the context right quick. I'm not going to actually change it to something else. I'm just going to use it to refresh what's displayed here. And you'll notice a new item will pop up within this list. And there we go. Our new item has popped up right there. It's ready to go. It's available and ready to check out. Now what we can do here is, let's say we forgot something. For instance, this item above it ended up in a different location than what I just put this one in. So maybe I want to double click on it. Double clicking on the item will reopen that exact same menu, and we can then proceed to work on that particular item. In this case, we're going to mark it as reference, just for kicks and giggles, and then click Save and Exit. Once we're done there, voila, everything is up to date. Now, this just about covers the newer parts of the WebStaff client, the things that will feel different than what we are used to. So what I'm going to do now is go through a quick tour of sections that got a facelift but retained the same general look and feel as the old staff client. And if you've worked with them, they should be relatively familiar. First off, we have our record and copy buckets. Now you'll see this looks very similar to what we're used to. You've got your buckets drop down where you can select various different buckets or create and edit the buckets that are already here. In this case, we're going to just click on a bucket to illustrate things work exactly as you would expect. If you click on one or more items or use the top checkbox to check everything, you have the actions menu over here, which will allow you to do various different things. The same thing is true for the copy buckets. You have the buckets list here. Selecting one of the buckets will give you the ability to start applying different statuses and making various changes to those items with the action menu on the right hand side. But otherwise, it's exactly the same as what we have in the current staff client, just with a new feel and probably a little bit faster. Along with that, Z3950 also got a bit of a facelift, and I feel it's a little bit better off for it. In this case, you just simply click what you are looking for, or where you are wanting to look for items. You can type in information and search, and it will return information below just like it does in the old staff client. Hopefully this feels a little bit faster and looks a little bit cleaner overall. I feel like this new interface is just a lot crisper and easier to work with so far. But as you can see, if you find the record you're looking for, you'll be able to go through and import it, or edit the record and then import various different things like that. You have the option to view the MARC record, and it will pop that up on your screen. We have plenty of options available to us here. So, unfortunately at this time I have not been able to get the MARC batch import export to load properly for me on the demo server, so I can't really show that off. However, to the best of my knowledge, it is the exact same as what we have in the old staff client currently. It is still one of those sections that they need to work on and complete. So with that said, I'm not aware of any further meaningful changes to the system at this time. All other cataloging screens utilize the old interfaces and should really feel exactly the same in the new system. If something comes to my attention before the upgrade, I will be sure to either update this video or release a new one that covers that content, and at least reference it here and in the description below. So that's all for this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email me at gsams@roanoke-texas.com, and take care.